everyone. Welcome back to Mia Seeks Truth. So, I've been talking about forgiveness in a couple of my videos, and I really want you to hear this testimony from this woman who was dealing with unforgiveness, bitterness, and anger. And I really want you to jot down some mental notes and also start to really think about this and how it applies to your life. Let's get into this video.
And from my upbringing and my ex-husband's upbringing, we had what would be called an abusive relationship. My children experienced an abusive relationship. I experienced my mother and her abusive relationship, and my mother experienced her grandmother in an abusive relationship. And not knowing what a generational curse was, I repeated what I knew. I was married for 9 years before I divorced. And one of the last things that happened between me and my ex was he tried to choke me to death. And so as I was taking my last breath and the lights were becoming dim, God intervened and he let go. And finally I asked God for help because I couldn't climb out the walls. And so I got this book called The Purpose-Driven Life. And I started reading it. And I realized as I was reading it, I don't even know who Jesus is. I don't even know what it's like to have a relationship with God. I realized as I was reading this and I was going through my life that I never even knew what it was like to pray, to walk with God. And so as I'm reading this book called The Purpose-Driven Life, it's teaching me how to have a real tangible relationship with this invisible God. I was praying that. I said, God, I give myself back to you. I give my kids back to you. Have your way, have your will with me. Do whatever you want with me. It's yours. I had a vision. I saw myself in a stadium. So imagine a football stadium, but times a million. And it was all Christians. The football stadium was filled. It was Christians just in the stadium. And Jesus was standing there. And Jesus was standing there in the stadium. And everybody was screaming and yelling. It was like the best football game when your team was winning. Everybody was in a roar. And as Jesus was standing, he was going around and he was picking people. So he was going up and down the aisles and he was picking people. And he picked one person right there and they would come down to the middle. And everybody's just screaming. Everybody just wanted to be picked. And we didn't know what God was picking them for, but it was for Jesus. So it had to be amazing. We just wanted to be picked. And as God was going around, he finally came over to my section. And when God came over to my section, he looked at me and then he kept going. And it was like he was examining every part of every person. And either you had something or you didn't, but you didn't know what he was looking for. So he looks at me and he doesn't see it apparently, and he walks off. And my heart breaks. And so as I stood there, just being heartbroken that I didn't have whatever he needed. So about a month later, August 1st, 2015, I'm sitting in my room. And as I'm sitting in my room, I'm playing and I'm building my roadside kids. And as I'm sitting in my room, I hear God's audible voice say, place your hand upon your heart and stop the blood clot the devil planted in your heart to kill you tonight. And immediately I knew it was him, and I just placed my hand upon my heart and I said, God, bind up the blood clot that the devil planted to kill me tonight. And then I just went back to working with my kids. Then I laid down and I went to sleep. When I woke up that morning, I opened up my eyes, and in my doorway, immediately I knew the figure that was standing in my doorway was the spirit of death. I immediately knew that I had died. It's not questionable. I didn't wonder or worry if I was alive or not. I knew I was dead, and I knew he came to get me. And so I was confused. I was like, wait a minute. I'm okay that I died. But why are you here? Why isn't my daddy here? Why isn't God here? I'm going to heaven. I'm saved. I'm going to heaven. I'm saved. I received Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. I'm going to heaven. So as I sat there in confusion, then it turned to anger. Then it turned to bitterness. Because it was done. I'm dead. And he's coming to get me. He's coming to take me. So I sat there and I'm like, no, and I'm fighting it. I'm in my room. I'm trying to jump out the window. I'm trying to get past the spirit of death. And he just stood there. And it was almost like he was like, take your time, because it's final. It's over. Take as long as you want. You can try to run through the door. You can try to break the window. Do whatever you want, but it's done. And so I fought for my life. I cried out. I was in confusion. God, where are you? What is going on? Why? I'm screaming. I'm screaming for my life. And I know that it's final. And I don't know why I'm going to hell. So after what seemed like eternity, hours of me saying, no, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going. No, I'm going to heaven. Reality started to sit in. And it was final. So as I couldn't fight anymore, the spirit of death took me. And as he grabbed my body and turned out the doorway, I was able to catch my bed. And that's when I saw my actual body on the bed. And I realized that my children are about to wake up and they're going to find me sitting here. My mouth is open, my eyes is open, and I screamed, please, 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 close my mouth. Close my eyes. My children are about to wake up. They're going to find me like that. And the spirit of death took pleasure. He's like, I know. I want them to, because I'm trying to kill them too. So as he's turning out and we're walking, he's leaving the room, God intervenes. And he stops my heart attack. I couldn't understand why I had died and went to hell if I was saved. God sat down with me and explained to me what happened. God said, the last year, as you were inventing, walking out with the company, doing things, writing the book, going to church, he said, you stood up in church and you said that you forgave your ex-husband. You stood up there and you told people that you forgave your ex-husband. He said, but every time he would call you and tell you that you were the worst person in the world, he'd call you and tell you the worst mother, he said you would get mad and you would get angry. And he said you would ask me, God, why are you allowing him to do this to me? Why are you allowing him to talk to me like that? Why are you allowing him to do this? And you were so angry and you were so bitter. He said, that was me. He said, I was allowing him to call you and say those things because I was trying to warn you. He said, you had bitterness in your heart. He said, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. He said, so when he got you angry and mad, I was trying to let you know that your heart was still callous and that you still had some unforgiveness in there. But I couldn't get it out of you unless he aggravated you and angered you so that you could see. He said it would have been okay if you were mad at what he just said in that moment, but you were mad at what he did a year ago and in the past and everything you thought that you forgave him for. I was trying to show you you didn't so that you could clear your heart, but you didn't listen. And so he said in Matthew 12:34, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. He taught me in Jeremiah 17:9 The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know? He said you were lukewarm. He said you only forgave him a little bit. So I could only forgive you a little bit, because the measure in which we measure others, the measure in which we forgive others, we measured against you. And I couldn't fight it. I literally couldn't fight the word of God because it was true. But it was too late. He also showed me how in Revelation it says, if you call me Lord and you have any unforgiveness towards your brother and sister, you are a liar and your father is the devil. So he said your daddy came and got you. When you died, that was your father. Sitting in that reality and with Jesus, God showed me how to fix the problem. He said, you need Ezekiel 36:26, where he replaces your heart of stone with a heart of flesh and he replenishes the dry lands. He said, you need a heart transplant. He said, the works that I have for you is not done. The devil tried to kill you early. He basically explained to me that I would need to have one-on-one counseling with him, with the word of God, to get rid of all the bitterness. He said, it took you 9 years to get that hard. It's going to take you a little time for me to remove that. But if you keep giving it to me, I can work with that. And as long as you keep giving it to me, he's like, and if you lay it at the altar and you say, I forgive this person, and you get mad, he said, just give it back to me. And then just keep giving it back to me. Just giving it back to me. He said, because at least we're doing it together. He said, it's going to take time. You have to unteach yourself from all the areas in which you have walked in bitterness and anger. But he said, if you do it with me, it can be done. But if you do it by yourself, it can't. And so I started walking with him. I started walking with him daily. And I started to forgive and to forgive and to forgive. And some days would be better than others. But I knew I was growing and I was forgiving. And what he was looking for when he was going in the stadiums and looking, because you got to understand, those were all saved Christians. Those were all saved. It was a stadium full of saved Christians. So what was the difference? The difference was he was looking for his son's heart in their heart. He said, many are called, but few are chosen. He said, those were the chosen. He said, you have to have Jesus' heart in your heart. Because you have to be able to walk in the love that distinguishes you. They will know us by the love one to another. He said you got to forgive so that you can pray and intercede for him. And I didn't understand the value of that then. But as I walked with him and I walked with him and I walked with him, I understood, and God would show me things. And one of the things after my encounter, my death, was that God would allow me to see things so that I could pray and intercede. One of them being my ex-husband's death. God allowed me to see my ex-husband get into basically a car accident and die, but he was going to go to hell. And God asked me, pray for him. Intercede for him. I'm like, but he spit on me and he's still saying all these bad things about me. He's like, we're saved by grace. I saved you. You should have went to hell. You should have went to hell. But you asked for the same thing. And all I'm asking you to do is turn around and do that to your brother and your sister, because you didn't deserve. You're supposed to be in hell. I showed you how close you were supposed to go. And so that removed any doubt, that removed any hesitation for me to pray. And I prayed for him. And last December, he got into a car accident. A drunk driver, he's a police officer, he was running across the road trying to catch somebody, and a drunk driver hit him and ran over him and his head. And he should have died and had a miraculous healing. And he's fine now. And God's like, that's because Because you prayed. Because I could trust you to pray for your enemies. And I'm not talking about enemies. I'm talking about your family. That's your enemy, the hard ones. You can take it from a stranger or someone you met. When it's in your family, those are the ones that we walk around with a deceitful heart thinking we forgave people, and you haven't. You can be with them. You can sit with them. I stood up at church. I would have had a burial, and they would have been like, Shauna's in heaven. Save us a seat. And I'm in hell. Like the rich man going, please go tell my family I got it wrong. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. So through that process, God has been able to use me. And it has been one of the most amazing rides ever. And so I stand here today with you, trying to give you what God gave me, which is the opportunity to have a heart transplant. Because I could sit around and I could ask God, please tell me something to say to this person or that person, because I operate in those gifts too. I was born with it. I could say, hey, you have an angel standing behind you, but hey, you're going to be blessed with a house. Hey, you're going to go here, go there. But what is it to gain the whole world and lose your soul? We get stuck in the after. And the devil had no problem with me standing in church talking about how God and I are walking together in company and this and that, and I'm going to hell. Because as long as I didn't have a heart transplant, I was his. And he wasn't going to let me be aware of it at all. So he's like, yeah, let her go let me check her heart. Yeah, it's still hard and callous. Go ahead, preach. Go ahead, talk at church. Because as long as I didn't have Ezekiel 36:26, where you replaced my heart of stone with a heart of flesh, it didn't matter. It did not matter. God allowed me to come back so that no one dies and the wrong one comes to get him. Because not everybody gets to die and see that part and come back. And so that moment on, I have been yelling it from the rooftop. Because I don't want to be around anyone and they die and the wrong one comes to get them. I realized that bitterness and that anger wasn't worth my life. When I found out it was my life hanging in the balance, I was like, no, I got to forgive you. But if it was my ex-husband's life hanging in the balance, I was like, no, he can go to hell. Because I didn't understand that it was mine. The measure in which you measure others will be measured against you. It's your life. So forgiveness is selfish. I selfishly forgive everybody here because I got to make it. I got to make it. Forgiveness isn't a feeling, it's a choice. And it's one of the most selfish choices if you realize that I forgive you not because you were good to me. I forgive you not because you did everything right. I forgive you not because you did anything worth it. I forgive you because my life is in the balance. And I trust that God will touch you and you will stop hurting me. But even if you don't, I can't die for that. When I died, at no point did I go, well, my mother beat me. She hit me. My father beat me. My ex beat me. Yeah, it's worth it. None of those things came up. We think there's so many things. So many times people say, I'll talk to God when I get there. I'll handle it. God, none of those things come up when you die. When you die, it is about where you are going for the rest of your life. And that is it. And that is all that you care about.
It is so crucial to make sure that you forgive, because when you don't, you're holding on to so much anger and bitterness that is inside of you, and it comes out in other ways. Saying that you forgive somebody with your mouth is not enough. There's actually work that needs to be done in order to fully start to heal and forgive the person. What I always suggest is spending a lot of time in a secret place and letting God reveal to you where the enemy started to creep into your life and where that unforgiveness started to form, if that makes sense. So just really, if you have to watch the video again, really take heed to the things that she was saying, because this stuff is real. The Bible says that if you do not forgive the next person, God won't forgive you for your sin. So with that, if you die with unforgiveness in your heart, hatred in your heart, and bitterness and anger and just all malice, you're going straight to hell. You're not going to heaven. So really think about this. I hope that this video blesses you.